entitlements in terms of cutting.
Today, the Washington Post reports on the low-income Americans who voted for Trump. Quote, they are counting on him to keep their benefits intact, even while his cabinet picks and Republican lawmakers call on him to reduce federal spending. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have said that they want to trim $2 trillion from the government's annual budget, a cut that some experts say could be accomplished only by slashing entitlement programs. Trump's pick for White House budget director was a key architect of Project 2025, a plan drawn up by conservatives to guide his second term that calls for steep cuts to programs such as food stamps. And GOP leaders in Congress and Trump advisors are considering significant changes to Medicaid, food stamps, and other federal aid. The new federal law is expected to provide significant relief for patients taking expensive medications like those for cancer patients. NBC News medical reporter Berkeley Lovelace Jr. reports, quote, Mary and Jim Scott of Oregon are among the Medicare enrollees expecting to see savings next year. In 2023, the couple's out-of-pocket prescription drug expenses skyrocketed to $8,000, up from their previous annual average of $240. It was a difficult year during which Jim, 83, faced multiple serious health issues, including congestive heart failure, an acute kidney injury, and bladder cancer. Mary, 73, said the change offers a sense of relief after more than a year of struggling with the soaring costs of cancer care, making it easier for the couple to stay afloat and focus on what matters most: Jim's health, their grandchildren, their dog, and their garden. We're not planning any amazing trips. We're still needing to live our low-key lives, Mary said. But by the end of the summer, maybe we'll be able to put up some new siding on the house and do a few things that we've deferred. Joining us now is NBC News medical reporter Berkeley Lovelace Jr. Can you tell us more about the new changes coming to Medicare?
Hi, Katie. So yes, this is a really big change coming to Medicare. The new price cap applies to all drugs covered under Medicare Part D, which are prescription medications people take at home. So before this change, people typically had to spend $7,000 or more before Medicare started covering most of the cost. And even then, patients were still on the hook for some of that. And so this is especially a big deal for cancer patients who have to take some really expensive drugs. I actually spoke to one patient who said she spent $56,000 out of pocket in just 5 years on one drug. And overall, a recent report found that 3.2 million people on Medicare are expected to see savings next year, and more than 4 million could see savings in 2029. So a lot of people are expected to see savings next year. I did want to make one note that there is one exception, that this does not apply to so-called Part B drugs, which are drugs that are given in a hospital or another healthcare setting, like chemotherapy, for example. So people will still have to pay whatever insurance doesn't cover in those cases. Otherwise, patients on Medicare don't have to do anything. The only requirement is that you have to participate in a Medicare Part D plan. The health plan will track your out-of-pocket costs and cap spending once someone reaches that $2,000. Katie.
NBC's Berkeley Lovelace Jr., thank you so much for that report. And joining us now is Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California. He's a member of the House Oversight and Homeland Security Committees. Congressman, it's always good to see you. I don't know about you, this Washington Post piece that I just quoted, I posted it on my social media accounts because it's pretty wild, right? Because when you read it, and it's just a small microcosm, Congressman, of a community in America, and yet you and I both know this is replicated across many communities in America for those that voted for Donald Trump. And I want to highlight a quote at the end of it. There's a woman who subsists on a $1,300 Social Security payment every month and $75 in food stamps. And she says, we're old and tired and just want to be taken care of. And Trump has too much common sense, so I don't think he's going to do anything to hurt us. Are you kidding me? I mean, these people cannot be for real.
That's right. Well, happy holidays, Katie. First of all, good to see you.
Sorry.
I think it's really hard to, obviously, the Post story and so many others coming out, to know that so many folks, working class people, folks that are low income folks across the country, and depend on Social Security, on Medicare, on Medicaid, on the social safety net. And here you have Donald Trump, his cabinet, Elon Musk, where they actually want to cut these vital programs that are life-saving so many folks across the country. And I think a lot of Trump voters don't realize that, yes, Trump has talked about reforming and cutting Medicare. He has talked about replacing Obamacare, which, by the way, 45 million Americans depend on, and replacing it with something that he has not even explained to the American public. And so we should be very concerned about these. But please know, and those voters, the American public should know, that Democrats are going to fight like hell to keep these programs for them, regardless of who they voted for. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, these are programs that Americans have earned, even though Donald Trump and his appointees want to take them away.
Yeah, Congressman, but the disconnect is so profound, right? Because Republicans, and that's why I wanted to emphasize this, because I mentioned it in the lead up to your interview. Republicans have called on repealing the Inflation Reduction Act since it was signed into law in 2022. You heard me say they've always voted against plans that would protect these type of entitlements, these plans that provide social safety nets for so many Americans, regardless of what their party affiliation is. That's the important thing here, right? It doesn't make a difference if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you need help, somebody like Joe Biden and his administration, the Democrats have been fighting to protect them. So what's the disconnect between these voters that are highlighted in this Washington Post piece and the reality of Republicans that go to D.C., voted into office like a Donald Trump, and all they're going to do is they're hell-bent on making sure that they don't get these entitlements?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think first, it's really important that we recognize that at this moment, we're still analyzing deeply why that disconnection is actually there. We know that a couple of things are true. We know that Democrats are not communicating in every space where we need to communicate. We know that there's a lot of misinformation and, quite frankly, lies and distortions out in the broader media and in spaces online that are giving people incorrect information. And unfortunately, we have a Republican Party and Donald Trump who could care less about lying directly to the faces of the American public. It is shameless levels of lying where they can essentially look at their supporters in the face and tell them that they're going to preserve Medicare and then go on Fox News and talk about essentially repealing it or restructuring it to take away benefits. And so I think, look, Democrats, we're always going to side on truth, on getting people the right information, but there's no question we've got to be more aggressive. We've got to be scrappier. We've got to be in every single place and communicate this message, because we are up against folks that are willing to lie. And look at Elon Musk. He wants to destroy the social safety net as we know it, and yet he's the richest man on the planet. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's going to take some fight. And I've been telling folks, as Democrats, as a progressive party, we've got to fight a lot more.
Yeah, and I want to kind of emphasize and underscore what you're saying, Congressman, because I think we've always had conversations, you and I specifically as well, about the echo chambers that exist on both sides of the aisle, and yet there's a more effective one that is kind of casting a wide net of lies, telling people what they want to hear to induce them. Interestingly, in the law, there's a cause of action. It's fraud in the inducement is the actual cause of action, where somebody induces you or says something to you to get you to do something, but it's always based and grounded in fraud. And so we kind of have the same thing happening, which is the richest proposed cabinet in the history of America is a Trump second administration cabinet. And you have this non-governmental agency, which is a whole other conversation, with Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, this Doge thing, which they're going to be the ones that are going to be proposing how to slash all of this money, and this total misunderstanding and misapprehension of how effective Joe Biden and the Democrats were to safeguard through something like the Inflation Reduction Act.
And it goes to show you just how much disinformation and how much just these lies and mistruths have been and impacted so much of the American public. Look at Elon Musk. And I think, Katie, this is what's really, I think, dangerous. You have the wealthiest man on the planet who says he wants to cut essentially the social safety net, that he wants to essentially get rid of the debt ceiling like Donald Trump wanted to. And why do they want to do that? They want to do that not because they actually want to provide more services, but because they want to give themselves larger tax cuts and tax breaks. They want to essentially take the wealth and the hard-earned money of working class people across the country. Make no mistake about it. The hard money that is earned every day by workers. They want to take that money and redistribute it to themselves, to their companies, and to their billionaire friends. That's what this is all about, which is why they could care less about Social Security and about Medicare. Well, on the other side, you've had Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, a consequential administration that has lowered the price of prescription drugs, that has built our highways and roads, that has actually put in new safeguards for gun violence. And so, during this holiday season, I'm also thinking a lot about how good and solid of a president Joe Biden has been, and that we've got to prepare to push back on all of Donald Trump's lies and his efforts to cut our government to essentially nothing.
And quickly, Congressman, how do you guys do that then? How do the Democrats do that when you have what they're calling a trifecta now, right? Republicans holding all three branches of government, clearly signaling they're going to endanger social safety nets for Americans. How do Democrats do that? I know there's a very slim margin in terms of just the numbers right now in D.C., but what's it going to take for you guys?
Look, I think different folks have different ideas of how to get there. I'll tell you mine. It's not by holding hands with Republicans and kumbayaing at this moment and just wishing and hoping that everything is going to be okay in this big era of bipartisanship. That is just not the case, in my opinion. Bipartisanship right now and working with these Republicans is going to lead to one thing, and that is them rolling over us as a country and destroying the social safety net. At this moment, what Democrats need to do is to fight back every single time. And look already how that has worked. Even with the majority in the Congress, Democrats were able to stop some of their worst laws. We did, I think, a really strong effort on derailing the Matt Gaetz nomination. We continue to push, even in this last discussion on the budget, Democrats kept the government open while giving Donald Trump a loss, where he wanted, of course, to eliminate or raise the debt ceiling for massive tax cuts. And so if Democrats dig in, fight like hell, push hard, we can actually win some of these battles. Now, it's going to be hard and tough, but what we shouldn't be doing is all of a sudden rolling out the red carpet for Elon Musk and his Doge committee. That's something that I'm not going to engage in, and I hope that we continue to fight back.
You always need adults in the room, and it's always the Democrats these days. Congressman Robert Garcia, thanks for being here. Happy holidays. It's always so good to see you. Coming up, Donald Trump's Christmas message, go to hell. Literally, that's what he said. That's after he lied about federal death row inmates being pardoned. That's next.
Stay informed on the biggest issues of the day. MSNBC has you covered wherever you are. Watch, read, and listen. For the in-depth coverage and analysis you need, stay with MSNBC.
The way I describe it is I want to create the most personalized and immersive journey for our customers from the time they think about traveling to the very next time they think about traveling and all things in between. The day of travel, your in-airport and in-flight experience, your post-flight experience, and quite frankly, non-traveling. But it's that idea that I'm going to create something that is complementary and enhancing to your trip and do it in a very personalized manner. Our model is based on the traveler, their journey, the experience. Not just a very vanilla spread of here's our flight fare and here's a sale on whatever. Rather, it is meant to be personalized to say, we know that these are your preferences, and we want to show you opportunities that complement those preferences. And it creates convenience, and that's the important piece.